What's good? It's your boy CJ Goodfellow back with the Boxing Clinic. One time for the one time. Shout out to the LDBC and YTBC. We working. And this question has been going around for quite some time. Out of Errol, Spence, Keith Thurman, and Terence Crawford, which of these fights should happen first? And which fight will be more competitive? We gonna answer that one and a few other questions. But this is all pending Terence Crawford gets that belt in March. It's rumored about March 10th he should be fighting Jeff Horn, as long as Jeff Horn doesn't sustain any major injuries or cuts, versus Gary Cochran. It's sometime in December. I think it's the Wednesday before Billy Joe Saunders and David Lemieux fight, or the Wednesday after that. It's going to be on ESPN. ESPN actually picked it up like 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is going down in Australia. Crawford is supposed to be there ringside, and him and Aaron are supposed to be chopping it up about Jeff Horn, him fighting Jeff Horn. So let me get a lowdown on that. I just spoke on that on the Manny Pacquiao video we did earlier. Did a lot of work today as well, so check the archives today. I probably did about 10 videos. A lot of things went on today, a lot of topics we discussed. But basically what happened was Manny Pacquiao, every time they was trying to make the Crawford fight, filming to pass the torch to Terence Crawford. I spoke on this a few times, just for people who didn't hear it. He refused to pass the torch on to Terence Crawford and fight Crawford. So basically they sent Pacquiao on a dummy mission to Australia to basically get robbed and get the WBO belt out of his grasp. So they did that with Jeff Horn. Now, Terence Crawford sounds like he's going to be getting Jeff Horn outside of Australia, which, is rumored to be in Las Vegas. That's what Aaron wants to do the fight at in Vegas. So that's the lowdown on how that's going to go down. Why I would say which fight, should happen first, and which fight would happen first, and which would be more competitive out of these fights is 3 totally different questions, and that's why the video is so long. It's going to be very detailed. One of my most detailed videos outside of the prediction and breakdown videos I regularly do on major fights. Which fight will happen first is a difficult question. Because Keith Thurman seems to don't have the hunger no more. He don't have that electric, I'm in the jungle starving hunger anymore. Like, the burning desire is out of Keith Thurman. You could tell in the way he fights, in the way his personality has changed from when he did an interview with the Boxing Voice and he was just hungry, called on Americana, knock him out. I do this to Mayweather. I do this to this guy. That hunger is gone from his from his belly. He said he still got room for more hunger, possibly. But I say that because he's going to do a tune-up fight. Then he's probably going to fight Sean Porter. This is out of his own mouth. And he usually only fights one time a year the last 2 years. He fought once each year. And he said he wants to fight 3 or 4 times this year, but I'm thinking more twice. So if he fights twice this year, okay, he fights a tune-up and everything goes good with the tune-up. Then he fights Sean Porter. And I think that may be it for him this year. I don't think the Errol Spence fight will be squoze into 2018 because of how big of a fight it is for Keith Thurman. And, in the way December is going to fall for them, November, December is not the biggest fights in the sport of boxing. Most of the biggest fight in the sport of boxing falls in, the fall has a lot of good fights. So it would be more of a fall fight, more of a November, September, October-ish type of fight. But I just don't see that fight happening this year. I actually think it sounds funny, but this is definitely conspiracy brother hat going on here. I think that we going to get Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence before we get that Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence fight. Because I think Bob Arum really likes Errol Spence. And I think in his mind, he knows Errol Spence is a promotional free agent. And, he might try to get option on Errol Spence, which won't happen because it didn't happen for Oscar. But I think that's the fight they want to make from Bob Arum's standpoint. And for some reason, he's very vocal and he's very high on Errol Spence. And I think they want to build that fight up to be a smash hit at the pay-per-view box office. But it may be turned into one of regular TV's biggest time fights. And it's going to start off with showcasing Terence Crawford talent on ESPN versus Jeff Horn once again. people know that people in America don't like Jeff Horn because they feel like he robbed Manny Pacquiao. And if Terence Crawford his fight is promoted with Jeff Horn the right way in Vegas, and he's able to whoop on Jeff Horn the way Manny Pacquiao could not whoop on Jeff Horn, I think Terence Crawford's star jumps to a different status. I think Errol Spence will have a good showing versus Lamont Peterson. I think that's going to be on Showtime, so he won't get the viewership or he shouldn't get the viewership that Terence Crawford get. So I think Crawford and Spence will fight 3 times next year. And I think the latter part of their fights, I'm just jumping out there on a limb. I think Errol Spence will fight Terence Crawford later in 2018. I just don't see Keith Thurman staying healthy enough and really staying hungry enough to fight 3 times in 2018. But if we get any of those fights in 2018, it'll be Spence versus Terence Crawford. But if we don't get that by the end of 2018, it's definitely going to be Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman. You know, I think Al Heyman want to keep it on the PBC umbrella. That's more likely. That's just me throwing a conspiracy brother hat on. But which fight will be more competitive out of the 3? Hold on. Which fight will be more desirable by the fans? Which fight does the fans want to see happen first? They want to see Keith Thurman, I'm speaking from what I'm hearing, fight Errol Spence first. That's what people want to see. And understandably so, because Errol Spence has been gunning for Keith Thurman for a few years now. Then it was like, okay, I'll fight Keith Thurman. I'll fight Errol Spence out of Keith Thurman's mouth as long as Floyd Mayweather promised me a fight. Keith Thurman's been putting Errol Spence on the back burner. Most people believe he's faking injuries to avoid Errol Spence. They feel like he faked the injury to avoid Sean Porter. They feel that he doesn't want that fight with Errol Spence because Errol Spence style is bad for him. Where they feel that Errol Spence is able to come downhill, cut the ring off on run time. That's what they call him because he run a lot now. He's not aggressive as he used to be. And since Collazo hurt him with that body shot, they feel Errol Spence to get him out there with a body shot. But the thing about it is Errol Spence is going to have to get on the inside versus Keith Thurman. Cutting the ring off won't be an issue for Errol Spence, or closing the distance later in the fight. But can Errol Spence take one time's power if one time is able to plant and actually blow fire out? If he continues to move in pity pat, and he gasses out like he usually does, he's a front runner in my opinion. And Errol Spence is able to parry, slip and block some shots, and able to run him down late in the fight. I believe Errol Spence will get him out of there. But, that's the fight that people want to see because it's been built up over years. That's a fight that's been, built up hard, and, it's the build-up is epic. Now, Terence Crawford is a new player in the division. People want to see what he looks like at welterweight first. A lot of people jump to the conclusion that he's just going to be the same fighter in the same level he was at 35, 140, which is fine. But will that be enough to match the elites at 147 is the question. But the most desired fight is Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence, just because of the build-up. A lot of people, and when Crawford was at 135, people was talking about Errol Spence and Keith Thurman. Nobody thought that Crawford was going to jump up to 147 as quick as he did, as he is now. So he was never really mentioned in that same conversation. That's what Sean Porter, we did the video on that, pretty much echoed. He said, when I was in the amateurs and when I was in the pro, Crawford was a few weight classes below me. I never thought that would be a real possibility because his dad worked close with Crawford as well in the amateur system. And they almost got into a fist fight in the alley, and Bud then back down. So that interview was out there, man. If you could find that interview with Kenny Porter talking about how tough and resilient and how, strong-minded Terence Crawford is, it was a good interview, which would be more competitive. That's tough. That's a real tough fight. That's a tough call. I think they all be competitive, to be honest. Any of these 3 fights would be majorly competitive, I believe. It's tough. It's tough to call, man. It really is. It's tough. If I had to put my money on which fight would be more competitive, it depends on Keith Thurman, what he brings to the table. You know what I'm saying? But if I had to step out on a limb, I'd say Crawford versus Errol Spence because of the styles. You know, Errol Spence likes to fight on the inside. Crawford is not really he can move. He's not a runner though. Crawford is gonna sit in that long range where he can sit in the pocket, and he can swap it. He can you know bang out with the best of them. Errol Spence is gonna sit in that pocket, sit on the inside. He can bang it out with the best of them. As Errol Spence is able to get on the inside, it'll be interesting to see Terence Crawford true inside game. We seen Kell Brook, you know, when he couldn't hold Errol Spence, he really didn't have an inside game, and it showed. And Errol Spence made the adjustments, and he didn't smother his punches like Sean Porter did. And that's one of the big errors that Sean Porter made in the Kell Brook fight, and Kell Brook was able to hold him all day. Errol Spence will make that problem, but I will say Crawford and Keith Thurman would be a very, very stylistic fight. It'll be very interesting because both guys can move. Crawford probably will be the aggressor. It'll be interesting to see Crawford cut the distance on Keith Thurman and try to tag Keith Thurman. It'll be a tactical fight early on, and I think if Keith Thurman starts tagging Terence Crawford, Crawford will make an adjustment and or try to go tit for tat and try to hit Keith Thurman and possibly get knocked out by trying to be too aggressive and walking into something Keith Thurman throwing. I don't see Keith Thurman, if he get hit by Terence Crawford doing something stupid, I see him going into defensive mode like we see him do a lot of times. But that'd be an interesting fight right there, man. I would favor Terence, but I gotta see him at welterweight because the switch hitting ability of Leonard Bundini Bundu was troubling Terence Crawford, and I mean troubling Keith Thurman, and I know Terence Crawford's seen that, or he will see that on film, and he probably will switch up like crazy to keep Keith Thurman off balance. But all these fights will be significant. We chopped it up pretty good today on this topic, man. And if any of them happen in 2018, it's going to be a treat for the fans. If all of them happen in 2018, that'll be an unbelievable surprise. But I look for at least one of these fights to happen in 2018 and the rest to happen in 2019 to get one champion. God willing. Bless.